Testing, testing. I'm playing with my camera. A couple reasons. One of them, a couple of years ago, I posted a picture about this time of fresh fallen snow. The lakes were all frozen. And when I was out walking in the morning or in the afternoon, you would hear what often sounded like a rifle shot. And people would be walking by saying, "What is that?" Well, as the temperature changes and that solid surface shifts a little bit, it cracks, and that crack will like run the length of the lake. So unlike that, a few years ago, I'm sitting on my patio this afternoon. It's already 67 degrees, and I think it's about 1 o'clock. So there's weird weather everywhere. I'm going to be heading down into South America. I've just been seeing questions people have about the flooding in Medellin, Colombia. I also saw that parts of the Amazon are experiencing the worst drought that they've perhaps ever had in 23-24. And just moments ago, I saw a hypothermia cold weather alert for parts of Nicaragua where I was 2 years ago. So I know that some of you, I saw yesterday a caption someplace that there are towns in Florida that have had more snow this winter than Salt Lake City has. Like, wow, amazing. So the other reason I'm doing this is I'm getting ready to take a big adventure. I posted just a little bit about it, but last year at this time I had difficulty walking at all. I had so much pain in my knee, and it only hurt if I was walking. Hurt more going downhill, but it hurt coming uphill. And then it also hurt if I was sitting. And then it would wake me up at night because I guess it didn't like me sleeping. And so I saw a couple of surgeons. It's one of those experiences of seeing people that are really good and highly recommended and probably really technically proficient, but they just fall completely flat in the interpersonal relationship and personal connection category. And both of them told me the same thing. It's like, keep your natural knee as long as possible. So I started doing my own treatment with different things. And the knees improved dramatically. And so even before that, I started thinking about places that I'd been and I wanted to go back to that were changing dramatically, or places I hadn't been that were going to require walking and hiking, and I wanted to get to as long as I could. So after my last jaunt, Costa Rica, I went down there in August, and it's not my kind of experience. And it caters to people similar to what I have people that I know that have been to places like Hawaii, or they've got a resort they go to in Mexico. And they've gone multiple times, but they don't have any interaction with local people. And that's not my kind of travel. So when I was in Costa Rica, I realized that a lot of the questions that were on the Costa Rican travel board, people are flying into the airport, renting a car, getting their itinerary, driving to their hotel, dropping the car off, doing the canopy walk, doing the adrenaline trip, taking the kids to the adventure park, paying and hiring a guide or going on tours into multiple private reserves, getting in the car, going back to the airport. But the other thing I learned, not only there, I was in Thailand a couple years ago, and one of the things that I've had just great fun at is the cooking classes in Chiang Mai. And so, but I've learned. So years ago, the cooking classes were small, intimate, interactive, very personal experiences. Then they got popular, and they became a way to make money. So my first class, I think there were 10 or 12 students. We had 2 instructors, and they had 2 assistants. And we were in had a covering over the top on a farm just outside of Chiang Mai. And they gave us a menu, and we had an option. I think we made like 6 different items during that day. And so we all didn't make the same thing, so we got to sample what other people made. It was just an exquisite experience. But they taught us about the balancing of flavors. Sweet, sour, hot, spicy, and crunchy all go together. And if you get too much of one, how do you balance that out with another? So when I went back a couple of years ago, I had that memory of just that intimate experience, and I was really deliberate of shopping for a small local school, small groups. And I found one, and it was like exceptional. Except it was marketing, because when I got there, what they didn't tell us through their advertising was, yeah, you'll be in a small group of 10 or 12 people, but there's going to be 10 other small groups of 10 or 12 people in the same cooking space at a table right next to you with all the woks and utensils and panging and pounding and clanging and clacking. And what it turned into was, when you chose what item you wanted to cook, it was a production meal. So it'd be like, okay, everybody doing pad thai, you'd raise your hand, and then they would bring you a plate with all your ingredients. And then they would be like, almost like, okay, let's go. So put this in first, put this in first, put this in next, put this in next. Cook it for this, like, oh, there you go, you're done. And I didn't learn anything. And I had some fun cooking, but it was just like... So when I went to Costa Rica, I did a similar thing. I was shopping for a tour, and granted, it's not the most popular tour, so it was hard to find people that were going up north toward the border of Costa Rica and Nicaragua to a place called Caño Negra. And I found one. It was a local company, and they sounded good, but it was basically robotic. So here's the schedule, here's what we're going to do, we're going to pick you up, and then it was almost like the push button on the guide, that the moment we got on the boat was like pushing the button and he started doing his spiel. And when we arrived, everybody got out, went inside to get coffee. The guide went in to talk to his friends that he knew there. And I'm standing outside looking at the tree above the bus going, wait a minute, there's a whole family of monkeys up there. And there's some kind of fruit that they're eating. And here's the stuff falling on the ground. I looked the other direction, maybe 5-6 meters, 4 or 5 meters off the ground, maybe not even that far. 5 or 6 really huge vultures resting in the tree behind us. And all the tourists who hadn't seen any of that were inside having coffee and fruit and chatting. And the guide's chatting with his friend, and I'm like, wow, I thought this was supposed to be like a nature experience. So long story made short, is I started becoming even more sensitive to how do I separate the marketing description from the reality. Because at the end of that trip, we're going down the river in a different direction. And we're seeing all kinds of interesting birds and wildlife. And the howler monkeys started calling to each other. One side of the river to the other side of the river. One side of the river to the other side. And we're all fascinated. And the guide's like, okay, time to go. Zzz. And so my next trip, I've been really digging deep into how do I find local people and not tour companies. So one of the things I'm hoping to do is some video recording. So the other ultimate purpose for today is I've got a couple of, got a new microphone. I've got a way that I can set my iPad up with my phone as a monitor, so I can use the backside cameras, which are better quality recording, and see what I'm doing. And a large part of that isn't working. So I'm thinking it's a much better experience to work on that now here while I'm still in Colorado rather than when I'm down in the Amazon. So I found a couple of places. I'm not going to go into too much of that now, but when I came back from Malaysia and Bali, Malaysia, I went to go see Taman Negara, which is often referred to as the oldest tropical rainforest on the planet. And I visited some new places, saw the healers, did lots of walking, felt really good. And I got home, and I'm like, what would I like to do next? Well, even before I went, I started contemplating what a great experience it was when I was down in the Amazon in 1997. And so I started looking, and of course it's changed a lot. It's bigger, more populated, a lot more tour companies. And so what I've done is I found a couple of small local organizations. So here's what's going to happen. I'll fly to Lima, Peru. The next morning I'll take a short flight to a village called Tarapoto. And I'll be in Tarapoto for a couple of days doing some shopping, getting some supplies, and finding some large jungle rubber boots that'll fit my feet. And then I go to the next village and get on a boat and go downriver to Pacaya Samiria, which is, I think, the largest reserve down there. It's also a place of perpetual water. So year round, they're not dependent upon the snow melt and the rains and stuff. And it's like the forest of mirrors, because the black water basically is like a mirror reflecting the forest back down. So lots and lots of companies, I found out that some of the companies don't go into Pacaya Samiria, but they go near Pacaya Samiria, because only certain certified guides and companies can go in there. So I found one. And they've been just stunning and amazing to communicate with, and expressing my. So part of my purpose now is the Amazon in March, April, May, end of March, April, May is high water season. So there's not a lot of hiking, which is not great for my knee. But the trails are still there, so you can do them. So that was advised to me by a man I met and wrote to down there. So I'll be down there for 5 days when I get to the village of Lagunas. I'm going out with a Katupel, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And packing super light, just taking basic essentials, and I'll leave the morning after I get there. We're going to go out into the jungle for 5 days in a canoe in an area where there's no motorized traffic. And we'll be staying in remote huts and tents and villages. So I wrote to them through WhatsApp, great communication for travel like this around the world. And she wrote back to me. I wrote to her and said, it's going to be coming up before too long, and I haven't sent you a deposit or anything. Do you need some money from me? And she wrote back and she said, oh, no, we'll take care of all that when you get here. Well, that doesn't happen in America. So it's a really affordable experience. Every time I have a question, they respond immediately. And it's such a remote village, I was having an impossible time finding a way to contact the local hotels and hostels that are there. So I wrote to her and told her, I'm having trouble, but I think I'm going to come in on this night and be there for the 5 days. And she wrote back, and she would be happy to have you be a guest with my family in our home. There'll be no charge. So those are the experiences that I look for. And because, I'm pretty clear, because that's my intention, I always find things like that. So the second company I'm going to, it's a bigger, larger, longer experience. It's more expensive, which is, I used to travel with budget backpack and I didn't have any extra money for more expensive. And now I can do that. And my selection process is talking to the man, interacting with email. He's the one that recommended the boats in that time of the year. And then finding out about their programs. They don't have an itinerary, so I'll be there for 8 days. And the way that this trip works is when I arrive, so I've got to coordinate with them because, the boats leave sometime. And they take 2 days unless they take 3, but then if they don't leave, it takes 4. So the protocol is once I have a clearer sense of the day I'm going to get there, I'll contact them and set up my beginning date. I think I already have that. But the reason that's important is the guides don't live there. They live in the forest. They live in the jungle. They're home with their family. So it takes them a few days to come and get things together. So when I arrive, they pick me up in Iquitos, which is the biggest city in the Amazon. I think it's the second largest city in Peru. And they'll pick me up there, and it's a 4-hour boat ride to get where they are in the jungle. If I was on the slow boat, that would be a couple days. And then once I arrive, I meet my guide. I have a guide. Every group that comes has their own guide. And he or she and I will sit down and talk about what I want. And then based upon what I want and what season it is and what's in fruit and what trees are bearing, food for then we'll start making a tentative plan that we will adjust and accommodate every single day. So it's not like a tour group where you ring the bell and everybody falls in line and wanders on. So, and the other part about that one is there's a research center, ARC, 2 more hours by boat deeper into the jungle in a more remote area. So both of those areas have different habitat, different animals, and that sort of thing. So that's where I'm headed. So that's part of the reason I want to make sure that I can take some video and have everything working. So I'll keep working on that. But for now, I just thought some of you are freezing. I'll send you a little warmth from Colorado. I think we were record high temperature yesterday. my thermometer got up to 70, 71. And today it was 60 some degrees at 12 o'clock. So, all right, well, that's it from here. Signing off from Colorado. I hope everybody's doing awesome. Take care of yourself. Stay tuned. And if you have any questions or you're curious about my trip, drop me a line and I'll respond to those. So take care. Ciao.